Hi, this is Cindy, and we're going to go over part 2 of the shed drawing for CMGT1140. So we're going to start off by creating a site plan for our shed. So we have just some lawn out here, so our 3D drawing doesn't show just a shed hanging out in a blank white space. So over on the left-hand side here, I've got my floor plan, my grade plan, my roof bearing, and then I have a site plan. And I'm going to select my site plan in order to put my topo surface there, and I'm going to have to double-click on it. You'll notice that if I just click on something else, it highlights it blue, but the plan that I'm on is site plan, and you can tell that by the words being in bold. And so even if I just click once on some other on another plan, in order for me to actually be on that plan, I need to double-click. So I'm currently on my site plan, and I'm going to go over to Massing in Site tab, and then I'm going to select Topo Surface. So I'm going to select Topo Surface, and you can see here under Topo Surface I can create from import. If I hover on that, it's going to show me that I can import an AutoCAD drawing, which we'll do in another project, to be able to create, more of a detailed topo surface. But in this case, I'm just going to create nice flat space around my building. So I'm just going to use the place point, and I'm going to put 4 points around my building, and I'm not going to worry about them being square or anything like that. And after I've established that kind of lawn out there, I'm going to then select a material for that, but first I'm going to check. So then I have a space, and I'm going to select my topo surface, and under material I'm going to select the ... to be able to open my material editor, and I want to be able to put some grass in here, so I'm going to search for grass, and I'm going to find grass, put that up on top by double clicking, and then select it up on the top here, say apply and OK. Okay, so now I have some lawn. Now the other thing that I need to do is I need to be able to put this the surface of this down, because right now it's at 0, 0, so but I want that to actually be at grade at that -1 foot 9 inches, so I want to be able to move that down. So I'm going to select my topo surface, and I'm going to say edit surface, and I'm going to select one of my dots here in the corner, and I'm going to change my elevation over in my properties box to -1 foot 9 inches, because again I want that to be down on grade. And you can see where I get a topography line here, because if that one was 1 foot 9 but the rest of these were at 0, it would kind of slope towards that, and I could adjust that topography line if I wanted, but I'm going to make all of these the same. So I'm going to select my next dot and make that -1 foot 9 inches, and my third one -1 foot 9 inches, and the very last one -1 foot 9 inches. So I have just a completely flat surface, and again I'm going to say check. Okay, so then when I look at this in 3D, in order to do that, I can click on the house that should be on your top quick select bar, or I can go under View, and then I'm going to select under 3D View. I'm going to select Default 3D View, and you can see that I have something that looks like this. I've got some lawn, and I've got a box. Now down on the very bottom here, I'm going to change a couple of things about the way that I'm looking at this. So I'm going to change my detail level, and that's the thing that looks like a checker. I'm going to change that to fine, and that's right next to my scale notification here. And then I'm going to, under the visual style, which looks like a blank cube, I'm going to change that to realistic. And so you can see here, you can see my siding on the side of my building, you can see that wood on the inside, and you can see the lawn running around the outside of my building. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my site plan, and I'm just going to put a couple of other things in here just to make it a little bit interesting. So under architecture, I'm going to put in some trees, and trees are components. A lot of things are components, so pieces of furniture and equipment, anything that's kind of going into the building model independently is going to be a component. And the difference between independent components and dependent components, things that are dependent are things like windows and doors, and they're dependent in the way that if you, the only way to put them in is to put them in a wall. You can't just have a window and a door hanging out by itself without it being put in a wall, whereas independent component allows itself to be placed wherever you would like. So I'm going to go under component and place component, and over here under the properties box, if I select the down arrow, I'm going to get all the components that are currently loaded into my project. And right now there's usually a desk and parking spaces, and then there's a bunch of trees. So I'm going to select a red maple. That sounds good. And it's a fairly large tree, and I'm just going to kind of stick these in the backyard here, just to have a little bit of interest on my floor plan. Okay. All right. So then the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to insert my floor onto my project. And so I'm going to go up here to my floor level because that's where I want my floor to be. And I'm also going to change the way I'm viewing this. Right now I'm viewing it with what's called thick lines, and so my lines on my project are hard to read because they all mash together. So under the View tab, I'm going to select Thin Lines on the Graphics panel, and that allows me to view what my drawing looks like a little bit more closely. Now you'll notice right now that my walls are just looking like kind of just blank squares. And again, down on the bottom here, if I change my detail level to fine, now I can see all of those different components that are making up my wall. Okay, so we're going to go under Architecture to be able to create our floor. So under Architecture, I'm going to select Floor, and I'm going to select Floor Architectural. And our floor type here right now is generic 12-inch. We want to be able to select something that's similar to what we're going to be doing. And so I'm going to select this wood joist 10-inch, very similar to our walls. We're going to select something that's similar, and we're going to make some modifications. So I'm going to select this wood joist 10-inch wood finish, and I'm going to edit the type, and then I'm going to duplicate it. So I'm going to duplicate this wood joist, wood finish, and I'm going to change this to plywood. If I could spell. There we go, plywood. Okay, and then under structure, I'm going to edit that. So I'm going to change my structure rather than having a 2x10 structure. I'm going to change that to a 2x8 structure. So I'm going to change the size of my structure member to 7.5 inches. And then on top of that, you can see that there's plywood on the top of that, and I'm just going to move that up. So I'm going to select up so that that moves up onto the top. I'm going to highlight the finish row, and I'm going to get rid of that. So I'm going to get rid of my wood finish that would be on top of there. And instead of structure, I'm going to change this to a finish because it's now a finish and it's above that core boundary. So if I left it called structure, it would not be the same. So I'm just going to have that there. So then you can see our total depth of our floor is 8.25 inches. And I'm going to say OK. And OK again. All right, so right here again, in order to be able to create our floor, we have boundary lines, we have an X and a check. And right now in my drawing box, I have something new that I didn't have before when I was making walls, and that's pick walls. So I can come hover over my wall here. I haven't clicked, I'm just hovering. I put my mouse there, and I'm going to hit the tab key. And when I hit the tab key, I'm going to get all 4 walls. It's going to say chain of walls or lines. After you've hit that tab key, if you move your mouse, you're going to deselect that. So again, you want to move your mouse. So you're just hovering, no click. I hit my tab key, and then I'm going to click, and you can see that selected all 4 of them, going all the way around for me, and kind of does some of that work. And so then I'm just going to say check to finish that. Okay, so the other kind of floor that we have is some decking out front of our project, and so we want to be able to establish that out there as well. And so again, I'm going to select floor architectural. I'm going to select that flooring that I just used for my project and renamed that wood finish plywood. And I'm going to edit the type, and I'm going to duplicate it. Only this time I'm going to say wood joist, and I should have changed that other one to 8 inches as well. That I have wood joist, and then I also have, in this particular case, would be decking, so exterior decking, and I'm going to say OK. So again, I'm going to edit my structure, so I'm going to select edit, and here instead of plywood, I'm going to click on the ... there. And I'm going to have to create a new material because there isn't a material in here that works for decking. So I need to be able to create a new material. So I'm going to select my plywood sheathing, and that's what I have selected for right now. And I'm just going to make a new piece of material that I can use. So the bottom left-hand corner, I'm going to hit the circle with the plus, which is create new material. And it's going to create a default new material. And that default new material over here on the left-hand side, I'm going to right-click and I'm going to rename it, and I'm going to rename it decking. Okay, and then my decking material, which goes in alphabetical order here, I need to refine that, so decking material. Over on the right, I need to be able to add an appearance set to that decking as well. And in this case, for right now, I'm just going to select some birch wood. Later on, when I select my actual materials for the project, I can then change that, but for right now, I'm just going to select that as my material. So I have this called decking, and I have some birch, and I'm just going to say done, and apply, and OK. And then I'm going to change my thickness here to 1.5 inches, which would be a little bit more typical, or 1.25 inches for decking on my finish, so for my finish on top of my structure. And I'm going to say OK. And OK again. And then I'm going to establish my little floor that's out here on the outside. So the deck that's coming off of that front there is 4 feet wide, and so I'm just going to select one of my sidelines here and change this to 4 feet, and I've made that the same width as my building, just to kind of keep it simple there with the exterior. And after I have that established as far as its size, then I'm going to hit check. Okay, so then I have my deck off of the front. And after I have my deck off the front, if I look at that on my 3D view here by double-clicking on that, and we're going to think for a little bit, then you can see that I have my lawn and my decking, and you can see that floating there. And so now we move on to part 3.